Hey guys, I'm Lindsey, and you made it through your first week of meal prepping. How did it go? What positive things did you experience from having your meals ready to go? I hope it went well and that you're ready to dive into another week. This time, we're actually going to be adding a breakfast component to help mornings be a bit more streamlined. This week, we're going to cover recipes versus formulas, feeling confident choosing recipes. We're going to complete a pantry, fridge, spice drawer makeover, and we're also going to talk about making recipe substitutions. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to chat about today is feeling confident choosing recipes. It can be a little overwhelming if you just do a search on Google or on Pinterest. A lot of recipes pop up. So one formula that people do is choosing an actual formula instead of a recipe, and I want to introduce you to that philosophy now. So it can be a little easier than finding recipes to use a formula. It can be a great alternative if you and your family like to keep things as simple as possible. So for instance, when deciding which foods to meal prep, you might use one of the following formulas. A basic one would be a protein plus a grain plus a vegetable. If you were trying to eat lower carbohydrate, you could do a protein plus a vegetable plus a vegetable. And then if you were trying to go meat-free, it might be a bean, nuts, or seeds plus a grain plus a vegetable. So after you follow one of those formulas, you can then add toppings to any of them to make it more interesting. You could add sauces, nuts and seeds, fresh herbs. If you find that this resonates with you, it might be beneficial for you to follow a meal prep plan that involves cooking 1 or 2 types of proteins for the week, maybe a grain or 2, and different vegetables for mix and match. You could then make 1 or 2 sauces to add flavor and change things up. However, if following a recipe is more your style, then by all means, stick to that method. The point is to do what works best for you and will keep you coming back to the meal prepped plate. Because remember, we're here trying to make this the easy option. So our next topic for today is talking about completing a pantry or a spice drawer makeover. No, I'm not asking you to completely empty out your fridge and pantry, although I won't stop you if you'd like to. But I do want you to take a quick glance in the areas where you keep food. Do you see an ingredient that you haven't used in a while? I encourage you to check the expiration date, and if it's past its prime, throw it out. I'll have condiments and half-empty jars of sauces in my fridge, and once I actually clear them out, it really makes space for my meal prepped foods, and it doesn't cause me to waste time trying to find things in my fridge. When it comes to spices, chances are your drawer might need a little TLC. Do you remember when you bought that pumpkin pie spice? How many Thanksgivings ago was that? When I finally went through mine, I found 3 nutmegs and 2 cream of tartars. Obviously, I don't use them very often, and when one was called for in a recipe, I immediately bought a new one instead of knowing what was in my drawer. Organizing your spices makes it easier to use them and to know when you might need to replenish them, so you're not left without something you use often, like salt or pepper. So speaking of running out of something, you might find that you're missing an ingredient or that a recipe calls for something that you'd prefer to substitute out, be it for an allergy, a preference, or just to make a meal more healthy. This is where you have the opportunity to be a bit creative. I'll post some common substitutes that I use in my own kitchen that I hope will help you get started. So often making substitutions can feel intimidating because it's not part of the recipe. But I hope that as your confidence in the kitchen grows, that your confidence to substitute certain ingredients for others does too. So now that you've completed your pantry makeover, your fridge makeover, and your spice drawer, it's time to make your list for what you need at the grocery store. Remember to create your list according to how your grocery store is laid out. So put all of your produce items in one category, all of your dairy items, canned goods, meats, and so on. This makes shopping a breeze. Now it's time to get to meal prepping. The key thing to remember when you're setting up your week is that you want to pick meals that you actually want to eat, not just meals that you think you should eat because you think they're healthy. Our recipes for this week include baked chicken and vegetables, cauliflower fried rice, turkey pasta bake, and egg muffins. And in our Power Hour today, we're going to make our egg muffins from start to finish. We're going to prep the turkey pasta bake for the freezer, and then prep some of our components for our baked chicken and fried rice. So let's get started. So welcome to today's Power Hour. I'm going to get started by turning on my oven for my egg muffins and filling up a pot of water so that we can go ahead and get our pasta cooking. So let's turn on our oven to 325. We'll let this start boiling, and when it starts boiling, then we'll add our pasta to it. Okay, now we're gonna start making our egg muffins. Couple things to think about when you're making egg muffins. This recipe is super versatile, so you can add whatever vegetables you want. You can put in meat, you can leave meat out. You can kind of even make half one way and half another. So I'm gonna kind of show you some different ways to make it, but definitely make it your own. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. This is actually a vegetarian breakfast sausage. Don't knock it just yet. So you can definitely use frozen turkey, you can use sausage, you can use whatever meat your family likes. My daughter just happens to love these. They're just the original sausage patties. You can find them in the frozen food section at any grocery store. I'm going to heat up about 3 of them just on a microwave safe plate, pop them into the microwave for about a minute just so that they'll kind of heat through, and then I'm gonna crumble them up and put those into the egg muffins. So I'll show you what they look like. One thing that I like about the vegetarian sausage is that it's cholesterol free. So if that's something that you're trying to watch, then it could be a good option for you. So they just come, they're just regular little breakfast sausages. Again, you don't have to use these, you can use regular meat. But I find that my whole family actually likes these, and oftentimes you can't even tell the difference. So onto the microwave. Okay, the next thing that I want to add to our egg muffins is some vegetables. So I'm going to choose broccoli because we're using broccoli in another one of our recipes today. So I have some leftover. So I'm going to go ahead and not waste any and chop some up to put into our egg muffins. So really I'm just kind of looking for the florets. So I'm going to tear those guys up and just pop them in. You'll notice that I'm using these silicone muffin liners. You can use paper liners if you want. I just like these because it's truly non-stick, so I don't have to worry about cleaning my pan afterwards. And my family thinks that they're cute because somehow all the pink ones tend to go first. Anytime you can make food fun, I find kids are much more apt to try it, even if it has green things in it. So just gonna tear up the broccoli and pop it in there. I'm kind of keeping the stalks out. If you like the stalks, definitely put them in. Another good vegetable that would be good in here would be spinach. That lends really well to egg muffins. Roasted peppers, onions, any of those things. Artichoke hearts, you can do like a Mediterranean style. So really I just used 2 big broccoli florets that were gonna be left over from our baked chicken recipe. So that's it. All right, I'm gonna get the sausage out of the microwave now. While my sausage is cool, I want to chat with you about the eggs that I'm going to use. Instead of actually doing whole eggs and having to crack them all or separate out the egg whites, I'm actually just going to use just egg beaters. This is the off-brand, the Kroger brand of it. I definitely like these because they're pourable. If I don't use them all, I can just pop it in the refrigerator and use them on a different recipe. And actually, I'm gonna use these for our egg muffins, and then I'm also gonna use this later on in the week for our cauliflower fried rice. So, all you're gonna have to do is crumble up the sausage, disperse it among the 12 muffins, and then top it with some of your egg beaters. I'm just gonna use my hands. You could use a fork. And the good thing about these sausages is that they're pretty much already cooked. So you're just heating them through. I just warmed them up so that they're easier to crumble, obviously, than when they're frozen. So just gonna disperse these through. And I can hear my pasta water starting to really heat up. So after these get going, just pour the egg mixture in. You don't want to fill them up too much because then you'll have kind of an explosion. See what I did there? An explosion on your hands. So about 3/4 full. And these are so easy for grab and go. You can just pop them into the microwave and they are ready. So that was about one of these small cartons. I used the whole thing. And that's it. So I'm gonna pop these into our preheated oven. Our oven is set at 325 degrees. They're gonna bake for about 20 minutes or until they're set. Okay, let's check our pasta water. We are just about boiling. So I'm gonna go ahead and salt my pasta water. That's a really great way to just flavor your pasta because obviously it doesn't really have much flavor to it as it is. So I was taught to salt it to the salinity of the sea. I don't know if that's right or not, but just put some salt in your pot and you'll be fine. Today I'm going to use a whole wheat penne pasta. You can use whatever kind of pasta that you like. I just find that this really lends well. It soaks up the sauce when we do the turkey pasta bake. I'm going to use 3 cups dry pasta. Let it boil for just according to package directions. And then once it's boiled, I'm actually going to take out 1 cup of the pasta water and reserve it for when we cook our turkey a little bit later. Okay? There we go. I'm gonna give this a little stir. And I'm just gonna let it do its thing. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is prep an onion for our cauliflower fried rice. So I'm gonna grab a baggie and I am going to chop up an onion and put the onion in the baggie. That's really the only prep work we have to do for that whole recipe. So it's pretty easy because it comes together really fast on the evening that we decide to cook it, okay? I'm just gonna do a small dice on these. Did you guys try any tricks last week for keeping the onions from making you cry? All right. It is such a time saver to have pre-chopped vegetables waiting on you when you're ready to make your recipe. All right. I'm gonna grab a Sharpie and label these for the cauliflower fried rice so I'll know exactly what recipe to use them in during the week. Okay, so that's done. Ready to go. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is prep some more vegetables for our chicken and vegetable bake. So we're gonna be using broccoli and bell peppers, and I am going to have them in the different baggies. So different baggies for our broccoli and peppers, and then another one for our chicken that we'll chop up. So these guys are already labeled for me. Now I'm gonna tell you a trick about broccoli. I just buy the packaged broccoli, like the bag of broccoli. It's already pre-washed, but I tend to wash it again just for safekeeping. But I like that it's already kind of done up for me. So if your family kind of likes the stalks on the broccoli, all I have to do is really rip it up and pop it into the bag. It's really that easy. So instead of having to get out the big guns and broccoli flying. And get the stalks off and all of that. I really can just kind of cut it up or tear it up even and throw it in. Super simple. We're gonna do about 1.5 pounds of chopped broccoli. So in your bag of broccoli, there's normally about 2 pounds. You can use the whole 2 pounds if you want, just dump the whole bag in. You'll notice I used a little bit in our egg muffins. So definitely just repurpose them, or you could dip them in some ranch dip if you want for a snack. And don't get rid of all of your stalks, because there's a lot of nutrition in those stalks too, not just in those leafy or the fluffy tops. This is going to be so easy when I'm ready to make my chicken and vegetables, to just get out my pan, throw these on, and call it good. Okay. And I will add in my bell peppers. They're already washed. And this guy, isn't he pretty? He's from my parents' garden. Shh, they don't know I was out there stealing peppers. So it really doesn't matter how you dice them up. I'm gonna just chop these guys kind of in a rough dice. You could do strips if you like, kind of like what we did with our fajitas last week. But I find that the more color you can add to your dinner plate, the better. We know that different fruits and vegetables offer us different nutrients, so that's why you hear the quote to eat the rainbow, or eat a variety of fruits and vegetables. We don't just want to eat carrots every day. I'm going to make sure you get lots of different colors. The more colorful your plate, the better. Okay, these guys are ready to go. Get out as much of that air as we can. And they're all set. Set that to the side. Before I get started on the next meal component, I do want to check my egg muffins. Okay, they're looking good, but not ready yet. I'll also check my pasta. Just give it a little stir. Pasta always takes much less time than I think it will, so we'll keep an eye on that. So the next thing we're going to do is chop our chicken into bite-sized pieces for our baked chicken and vegetable evening. Clear a little space here. This is 2 pounds of chicken. This is just boneless, skinless chicken breasts. You can use whatever kind of chicken you like. I like to use boneless, skinless. I find that it's just the leanest that I can find. Obviously, if you have it with skin on or bone in, it can have a little bit more flavor. So whatever your family likes. I'm just gonna chop these up so that they cook up really quick. And when we do bake them, I'm gonna show you guys a trick to help get dinner on the table even faster. So stay tuned for that. Another trick you could do, if you didn't even want to bake your chicken, you could always just get a rotisserie chicken and use that and just roast your vegetables. Okay. Phew, that was a lot of chicken. Okay. I'm gonna get my colander ready. I'm just gonna reuse it to drain my pasta. I'm gonna check my pasta again. It should be about ready. I'll try one out. We're looking for it to be al dente, so it's gonna have a little bit of a bite to it. It's gonna continue cooking a little bit in the oven, so you don't necessarily have to cook it all the way through, like you would if you were just gonna have spaghetti or something. It's perfect. So good. So remember that we're going to reserve 1 cup of our pasta water that we can use in our pasta bake a little later. So I'm just gonna ladle some of that out before I drain out the water. I like to use pasta water when I'm cooking things a little later because it's starchy and has a little bit of that flavor in it from the salt in the pasta. Okay. We're gonna let the pasta hang out until we're ready to add it to our pasta bake. So all of these meal components are now ready to pop into the fridge. We've got our cauliflower fried rice with onions, we've got our broccoli peppers, and our chicken ready for our baked chicken and vegetable night. I'm gonna check our egg muffins to see if they are done, and after that, I'm gonna get started on our ground turkey pasta bake. So really, you're just looking for them to kind of be set. So see how they're pretty firm? That means they're done. And we'll just let them cool. Okay, the next thing we're gonna work on is our turkey pasta bake. So the first thing I'm gonna do is chop up an onion. I've got my skillet preheated, so it's pretty warm, and we will get boogieing on this guy. I'm just gonna do a small dice on this onion. And what we're gonna do with this turkey bake is we're actually gonna prepare the whole thing and put it into our 9x13 pan, and then we're going to wrap it with saran wrap and some foil and pop it into the freezer. So whatever night we decide that we're ready to make it, we'll just pop it out of the freezer, let it kind of hang out on the countertop for maybe 10 or 15 minutes just so it can start coming to a little bit of a room temperature, and then we'll just bake it off on the evening that we're ready to eat it. So as I said, we're gonna kind of be dabbling into lots of different ways of meal prepping. So prepping certain components to be used later on in the week, prepping an entire meal to pop in the freezer to be cooked later, and then even next week we'll be getting into prepping a meal from start to finish just to be reheated on another night. I'm gonna put just a little bit of olive oil into my pan. And get all of this onion in there. Ooh, that's such a good sound. Sizzle, sizzle. Okay, just get those going. Whoop, this guy didn't get chopped. There we go. I would recommend for this recipe getting a pretty large skillet because it makes a lot. And this could even be one that you put into 2 pans if your family is smaller or if they're not big eaters. This can easily feed 8 people. Okay. I'm gonna let those guys go. Now I'm sure some people will scoff at the fact that I'm using pre-chopped garlic, but I do. It's just easier for me. I never have to worry about making sure I have fresh garlic. So once these onions cook and become translucent, I'm gonna add in my garlic. And according to my recipe, I need 4 garlic cloves. So a half teaspoon equals 1 clove of garlic. So we'll end up using 2 teaspoons of this pre-minced garlic. And y'all know I love garlic. So if a little extra sneaks in, don't tell. So once I put my garlic in, you really want to watch your garlic because it can burn really quickly, and if it burns, then it becomes bitter, and then you've kind of ruined the whole onion scenario. So I'm just gonna let them cook until it becomes fragrant, and then I'm gonna pop in my ground turkey to let it brown. Now I'm using our 93.7 ground turkey that we talked about last week. So it's that really lean option. I hope you enjoyed your turkey burgers from last week. If that was new for you, I'm proud of you for trying it. This one, so many ingredients go in that honestly, you cannot tell that it is a lean turkey that's in here. Oh, that garlic smells so good. I've got 2 pounds in there. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. Okay, while my turkey, I'm just gonna break it up and then let it brown completely. I'm just using a wooden spoon to do this. And this is definitely a recipe that you could even batch cook. So you could prep a couple of them into little different sized casserole dishes, freeze them, and then they're ready for you anytime that you need a quick meal. All right, we're gonna keep an eye on this and move the turkey around every once in a while just to keep it from getting too brown on any one side. Okay, let that hang out. Now I'm gonna be chopping up, I need 5 cups of kale, which I find is about equivalent to one of these bunches. So I've washed it. Kale is one of those vegetables, people either love it or they hate it. If you love it, fantastic. If you don't, you can always sub out other vegetables in this recipe that your family likes better. Up to you. If you're new to kale though, you'll want to rip the kale leaves off of this stem and then this will get discarded. I'm just gonna do a rough chop of these leaves and this is gonna add such a punch of nutrition into this pasta bake. So you kind of have that comfort food of the cheesy pasta, but you're kind of sneaking in some healthy stuff too. That's my favorite kind of recipe. The easiest way I find to chop kale is to kind of stack up your leaves and then kind of roll them up all together. It's a kale bouquet. And then just chop it up. And you can kind of take your stack, turn it the other way, and chop it. You don't have to get them too tiny because they'll cook down, kind of like spinach. You add in 17 cups of spinach and you end up with a tablespoon once it cooks down. So here's another bunch. All right, that's it. So once our turkey is completely cooked through and browned, I'm gonna be adding in some other fun ingredients. We're gonna add in some tomato sauce, some honey, some rosemary and thyme, and our kale, and then we'll also be adding in our cooked pasta to kind of bring it all together into this yummy, delicious pasta bake. And then we'll transfer it into a casserole dish where we will layer it with cheese, with mozzarella cheese, and then put it into the freezer. So now it's time to put everything together. That's it. So really, we're just gonna stir everything together so that it all comes together. Doesn't that look so delicious? And we're gonna make it even better by adding in a whole bag of mozzarella cheese. A whole bag. Yummy! Okay. I've got a 9x13 casserole dish here. I'm gonna do half of the pasta bake on the bottom, then I'm gonna do about 1 cup of mozzarella cheese. I'll do the other half of the pasta on top and then top it with some cheese as well. All right, and like I said before, this makes a lot. So the recipe says feeds 8. I would say it probably feeds more than that, especially if you're doing like a side salad with it or anything along those lines. So as this bakes, all of that cheesy goodness just melts through, so every bite has a little bit of cheese in it. Some of that cheese is already melting. Okay, we're just gonna top with the rest of our cheese. Okay. I'm going to cover this with saran wrap, and then I'm going to cover it with foil, and it will be ready for the freezer. Right. I'm covering it with both because that will help prevent freezer burn. And then when we bake it, you'll keep your foil and you'll cover it back up before you put it in the oven. So this is ready for our freezer. If you wanted to write on top of it, you definitely could, but I don't think I have any other big 9x13 casserole dishes full of delicious pasta bake in my freezer, so I think I'll remember what it is. So when we're ready to cook our turkey pasta bake, we'll take it out of the freezer and set it on the counter for just maybe 10 minutes or so, just to let it kind of thaw out just a tiny bit. I've already taken off the saran wrap, and then I'm going to place the foil right back on so that it will kind of heat through as it's in the oven. I've preheated my oven to 375 degrees, and I'm going to bake this for about 30 to 35 minutes. Now you can check it at that time, you can remove the foil, and then you can always put it back into the oven to let that cheese on top kind of brown and get yummy. All right, when we're ready to make our cauliflower fried rice, we're actually going to be using that same riced cauliflower that we used last week. So hopefully you really enjoyed it. If you didn't like it, you could always just use a brown rice or even a white rice, even though the brown rice would definitely be healthier. This is a great recipe if you are watching your carbohydrates. So if you are counting those, just a really great option with lots of flavor. So the first thing that we're gonna do, I've opened up my cauliflower rice. We're actually gonna get our onions out that we pre-chopped over the weekend. And I'm gonna do a little bit of cooking spray. Okay, woo. Now, sesame oil might be something that's a little new to you, and if it is, I really encourage you to try it out. It's got so much flavor. It's just oil made from sesame seeds. It's really great when you're doing anything stir fry, anything kind of Asian inspired. It just adds a whole nother level of flavor. So we're gonna put a little bit of sesame oil in as well. All right, and then get our onions going. Once that sesame oil hits the heat, you'll recognize that smell. It smells just like your favorite stir-fry restaurant. Or hibachi restaurant, I guess. We just want these guys to become translucent. Couple things I'm gonna add. With traditional fried rice, there's always those peas and carrots in there. If you can find them frozen, that works perfectly. My store didn't have them frozen, so I just got a can. I am gonna open the can and then I'm gonna actually rinse and drain them, so that will reduce some of that sodium that we always want to keep in check. All right. So our onions are already translucent. This is one of those meals that comes together so quickly, but really tastes homemade. So we're gonna dump in our peas and carrots. Then I'm gonna add in some garlic as well. We need 2 cloves of garlic, which is about a teaspoon. So we'll pop that in there. Next, I'm going to pop in my frozen cauliflower. Now, I didn't steam it in the microwave. You always could, but I'm going to let it kind of soak up some of the flavors from that sesame oil and then just cook on the skillet. Okay, the next thing I'm going to add, we've used egg beaters earlier in the week to make our egg muffins, and now I'm just going to use them again to do kind of our scrambled fried eggs in our fried rice. So I'm going to just make a little space here on my skillet and just pour in. My family likes a lot of egg in our fried rice, so we're just going to kind of stir it around, stir it in. There's really no rhyme or reason, no wrong way to do it. Just kind of scramble it up. Mix in your vegetables. Okay, I can hear my husband in my ear. He's saying, add more egg. So I will do that, just for you. Just a little bit. Okay. Few options here. You can do some leftover rotisserie chicken if you've got it, some leftover baked chicken from your baked chicken night. You can do tofu if you wanted to, or any type of canned bean, like our garbanzo bean would be really yummy in here. Frozen edamame would as well. But tonight, I'm going to try canned shredded chicken, okay? Super simple. It's usually always available in your store. It's a really inexpensive way to get chicken. So we are gonna pop this in and just kind of heat it through. But I am going to drain off the liquid and rinse it real quick. This is such a simple way to add chicken to things without having to roast it, without having to cut it up or buy it fresh or thaw it. It's a good pantry staple to always have around. Let that egg cook through, let the cauliflower get all hot, let the chicken warm up, and then at the very end, we're actually gonna hit it with a little bit of low sodium soy sauce. So you'll notice that we're not adding any other seasonings. We've got the sesame oil, which added a really nice flavor at the beginning, and then we're gonna hit it with the soy sauce at the end, which will really add a salty bite that you're probably used to with traditional fried rice. So it's gonna be a 1/4 cup of soy sauce, which sounds like a lot, but this is quite a bit of fried rice. You can always do half of this amount. You definitely don't have to do this much. Or you could kind of omit it completely and then let people kind of control how much soy sauce they want on their individual plates. Ooh, that smells so good. All right. And just that quickly, dinner's served. It's ready to go. You've got all your vegetables for the meal, your protein with your egg and your chicken, or whatever other protein source you chose if you didn't choose the chicken. It's a one-pot wonder. So with this, you definitely will not feel guilty about piling up your plate because you are not getting all of that processed white rice. It's that delicious cauliflower that you can feel really good about feeding your family. We're gonna check our pasta bake to see how it's looking. Oh, all that creamy cheese, yummy vegetables. Got a little bit longer to go. So we'll let it hang out for a little bit longer. Look at all of this cheesy, melty goodness. Ooh, I can't wait to dive in. Wow. And then if we want to make this really fancy and really up the wow factor, you can add in some fresh chopped parsley, just for some fresh garnish and added flavor, so that it really looks like it's from the Italian restaurant. Okay guys, I want to teach you a quick trick to get dinner on the table even faster. If you know that you're going to be roasting something using some rimmed sheet pans or something, I want you to go ahead and preheat your oven to 500 degrees and put your sheet pans in there. That's going to go ahead and heat up the pan so that when you put your vegetables on there, it's not having to heat up the pan and the vegetables when you pop it back into the oven to cook. Okay, our pans are preheated. So be really careful when you take them out because they will be very hot. I'm going to use my favorite pre-cut parchment sheets to make cleanup a breeze. All right, then I'm going to get the meal components that we had already prepped over the weekend, our chicken and our vegetables, and I'm just going to spread them out evenly across the two pans. You could always use one pan if you wanted to, but I find that they cook faster if you spread it out over two. I'm going to season this with some olive oil, some Italian seasoning, and some garlic, salt and pepper. And then I'm going to pop it into the oven. Now remember, we had our oven preheated to 500 degrees. You're going to want to turn it down to 450 for this to cook. And it's really going to cook super fast because your pan's already hot and your oven's already hot. Okay. So just a little olive oil. You're gonna do garlic powder. You could use fresh garlic if you wanted to. I just like that the garlic powder seems to coat the vegetables and chicken a little bit better. And then some Italian seasoning. It equals out to about a teaspoon total. We're gonna do just a touch of salt. And then some pepper. So we'll toss this around and then we'll pop it back into our oven. We'll want to check on these after about 8 minutes or so. Toss them around, and sometimes you even need to turn them so that the chicken and the vegetables cook evenly. Our chicken and vegetables are out of the oven, so now it's time to plate things up. One of my favorite tricks, I guess, for a fast, healthy meal on the table in no time is to just use these 90-second microwavable bags of brown rice. They also come in different flavors. They have ones that are made with quinoa, or they have like cheddar ones, some that have chicken broth in them. So whatever your family likes, I encourage you to try it out. But this just makes it so much more simple than having to get out a pot and a pan and cook the rice from scratch. So you literally just pop it into the microwave, set it for 90 seconds, and it's ready to go. So we'll do a little bit of rice and then some of these beautiful vegetables served alongside. Whoop. That broccoli really wanted to get on that plate. This came together in no time, especially because of our secret hack of preheating our pans at that 500-degree mark. So you can see this is such a beautiful plate, and it really does follow our plate method where we have our vegetables, our protein, and our whole grain.